Assalamu alaikum. Hi, Oracle Reiki spiritual healer. And I just wanted to start off this video by saying, I send out my condolences, and we send our condolences to the people of Brown University. There was a shooting a couple of days ago on Kentucky University. We send our condolences to those persons as well. We send our condolences to the people of Australia on the Bondi Beach, the Jewish community that was celebrating Hanukkah. We want to send our condolences to all of these people who have been injured and who have been unalived in these shootings and attacks. And, I really, want to be one of the first ones to say that, this is a tragedy. And these people are very hurtful and harmful. Their mind is fractured when they do these types of acts. And, again, I cannot express, my sorrow. And, I send my condolences, and we all send our condolences to those people. So, let's get into our topic today, and let us, have some understanding about, family dysfunction. In many ways, you will find that you can inherit, negative spirits and evil spirits from your parents. You can inherit mental diseases, generational curses from your parents, whether it be male or female. So you will have to make sure that the cleansing that you're doing, the cleansing that you continue to do, over your mind and your body, when you understand that you have inherited these spiritual diseases, these dysfunctions, these, spiritual generational curses upon your life, you will have to cleanse yourself regularly until you no longer have that oppression. You will have to, cleanse the situation in your family. And we're talking about, inherited, behaviors, inherited traits, inherited diseases, inherited generational curses and spirits. So with that understanding, the cleansing does not stop with you. The cleansing starts with you to make sure that it is not moving on into your next generation, into your sons and your daughters. That is the understanding that we have. When you're cleansing and when you're, removing these negative energy, you're looking at the past. You're seeing who's hovering around you. You're seeing who's coming around you to make sure that those attacks are carried out in your lineage, in your family, with your children. You have to look at those people so that they are identified and they are cleansed with this negative energy. So with these cleansing, a lot of people think that you can just start a cleanse and, it's going to be over in 1 or 2 days or a week or a month. When in reality, what we are cleansing is, if you're having the problems with your mind being fractured, your family hasn't been on medication, you've had, attacks, psychic attacks, or you inherited, spirits, attachments, from your parents, then that's where we start the work at. That's where we're going to start working on those psychic attacks or those attachments, those spirits, and many times, a lot of times that work will go into different generations. That work will go into, your father's generation or your mother's generation, especially if it has created a generational curse, again, where your mind is fractured. if it has caused, such health problems where you believe that you are sick or you have gotten sick from these attacks, then we start working with that aspect. We start working with, the health problems, the asthma or the bronchitis, those things that have stopped you from speaking. If it's, with your, if it's with your seed, if it's with your womb, then we'll start working with you in that aspect. If it has, turned malignant into diseases that you can't get rid of, then we'll start working with you with the diabetes, the heart problems. We'll start working with you, to cleanse the negative energy, from the cancer. Like I said, there have even been people who have reached out to me who are having eye problems, cataracts, or being threatened with blindness. So we are cleansing this negative energy, and we are sending that negative energy, back to the earth. We're sending it back to the persons. It really helps if you know who's the person that's been sending out those negative energies towards you in your family or in your community. And we want to make sure that we can send that negative energy back to the person that sent it out. And in many cases, if you don't know who sent it out, then we send it back to the earth. So all of these types of attacks upon you can be cleansed. And when you're talking about inheriting dysfunction behaviors, when you're talking about inheriting, dysfunction from your family, in many cases, you will find that people who have these types of attachments, they're really, filthy on the outside of them and filthy on the inside of them. You will see that filth, their behavior, they're kind of manifest with, in their homes with filth, stepping over plates, dirty dishes, a smell in their house, trash, piles of trash in the room and throughout the house. And I've seen that in many cases with people who have mental challenged behaviors, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. And again, I work with those type of people, and I was able to understand those hoarders and people who had mental issues, from, not being able to be loved and, being shunned for their disability, for having those attachments, and they develop these disorders, through those kinds of attacks. So what we're doing is cleansing those types of negative energy that we have inherited. And you can look back at my other videos from, a couple of days ago, because it hurts to heal. It hurts to heal these types of inherited dysfunctions, behaviors, characteristics, attachments, these types of attachments that you were born with, that have never been cleansed, that have never been cast out. So in many ways, we have to learn how to cleanse these negative energies that have not only been sent to us, but, have gone over in generational curses, turned into diseases, attachments, and things of that nature. And we have to want to be cleansed from this negative energy, because you cannot, remove this negative energy with, just earthly things, sage and salt. You will not be able to remove these types of attacks or, dysfunctions that you have received, inherited. Just like you can inherit the gifts. You can inherit good gifts from your mother or your father, of seeing, of, hearing. You can inherit these types of negative entities attached to your life, attached to your health, attached to your mind, the mental capacity. You can inherit these attachments, these spiritual higher spirits, that have turned into generational curses, and you will have to know how to remove these negative energies. So, that is why I gave you the example that I was able to understand that I didn't know what was wrong in my family at the time when I was 12, 13 years old, but I knew something was wrong because my father stayed distant from the family. My father, never really interacted with us. So, and I used to hear my mother say things. I used to hear other people say things. So when we're understanding that these types of attachments can go over into other generations, then God will give you the understanding of what to do. So again, I started to cleanse myself between 12 and 13 years old, not knowing that I was cleansing, a generational curse. I was asking for protection from a generational curse. I was, asking for protection from, warlocks and voodoo, people who were warlocks and witches that were in my family on both sides. And we are understanding that when we cleanse this negative energy, that negative energy stops. It's no longer able to move forward with you. And those people who are attacking you, they become very aggravated. They become, obsessed with trying to harm you because of the pact that they have made with the shayateen, with the entity, in order to sacrifice you to the entity, in order to gain, your gifts, in order to gain your blessings, your power that God has given you here on earth. So these are our ways that, we are using our purifying waters in this week in order to understand how to remove these types of negative energy. And again, I use the mint, I use the hyssop, and I use some of, the rue that my mother would have in her herbs. And, I use this to take a bath with. I use this, in order to wash my room, in order to wash the walls, the floor, the doorknob, the door, the inside and out, scrub, the threshold. This is how I was purifying at that time. And I didn't know that I was, I thought that I was just getting rid of the attacks that was being sent to me. And God will reveal to you, and God revealed to me later on in life that I was actually shielding myself from these attacks that were going forward, in my family, in my life, from both sides of the family, colliding and trying to attack me. Is the reason why I felt so oppressed. Is the reason why I isolated myself and would stay in my room, because I absolutely understood the frequency, even at that age, that was being sent out, that something wasn't right, something was off. So I hope that you are able to understand, this message. I hope that you receive this message. I want you to please like, share, and subscribe to me. Book your one-on-one consultations with me. You can also donate to my channel. Leave a comment for me. Book your life coaching sessions or your video chat sessions so I can acclimate a gift to your situation. If you're in a dysfunctional family, or if you have inherited spirits or attachments. Again, I'm High Oracle, Reiki Spiritual Healer. Assalamu alaikum.